Someone texted me this week and says, Joanna, I'm watching your video and you said people pleasing is a trauma response. And while there's no people pleasing is not a diagnosis. I believe it's as a result of trauma that we develop a coping strategy that is people pleasing. I'm going to talk some more about what that is and how that shows up and some of the ways that you can work to get away from it. I'm going to talk about the types of people pleasing and also the root of where it came from. Why do we do it? So we people please because we have an underlying belief system around how we should be, around behavior, around actions, around the things that we do. We do it because sometimes it kept us safe when we were younger. We knew and understand the system that we lived in, the family system that we lived in, or the environment that we were in, and we knew that certain behaviors would give us certain responses, and so we continue doing those behaviors. And when we start to do something in childhood, sometimes because we're not aware of it and it's such a subconscious process, we're not able to just relinquish those behaviors when we grow up. So as adults, we carry on those same behaviors. Now in childhood, of course, it served, but it still wasn't a healthy response, but it protected you perhaps. It got you in the in group, perhaps. It made you be seen by the popular people at school, or it kept you safe at home, out of harm's way, so you weren't the child that was harmed physically or indeed sexually, or any other thing that was going on in a dysfunctional family. You would be spared sometimes from some of it because of you've developed a way of coping that you know worked. So we do it sometimes to appease. We feel it's going to appease people. It's going to make, if I do this, then it's going to make somebody do that. And so we've worked out a pattern, or we worked out a system that we believe is going to make somebody do something. And we do that thing over and over again because sometimes it works. And so there's a reinforcing going on of that belief system. And we keep doing it, even though it's not serving us, even though the thing that the person is doing or the thing that we're doing is not serving us. And sometimes it might leave you feeling frustrated, feeling despondent and sad and down. It might still leave you feeling lonely and isolated. It doesn't give the fulfillment that you're expecting. The returns is not what you're expecting sometimes, but we still do it because it's a pattern of behavior that we've learned. And to break out of it is more uncomfortable than to keep doing it. And so the breaking out of it, we don't do it. And then what we do next is find ways of justifying the behavior. We find ways of telling ourselves that it's okay to keep doing this behavior, even though we're not getting the response from it that we desire. So we don't have to be nice, but we do it because we want to be liked. Everybody wants to be liked. Who wants to be liked? Everybody wants to be liked. And so there are ways of us relating to people and being in the world, being in the workplace, being at home, being in our relationships, because we want to be liked. Not being liked is not comfortable. And when I'm talking to my teens and I'm helping them to understand boundaries, and I'm helping them to how to position themselves with their peers, and I'm talking to them about how to stand up for what they believe in, and I'm helping them to figure out what they believe in, and I'm helping them to understand their own value system that is going to lead them and how that will help them in the world. When I'm helping them with that, and they are conflicted sometimes, because when you're a teen, you want to be liked. We all want to be liked. And so choosing sometimes the lonely road of you're the only one that is speaking out against a certain thing, or you're the only one that's responding a certain way, is challenging. And so what they find themselves doing sometimes is falling in with a crowd, which is not where we want to be. But standing out is not as easy. It's not as comfortable. And so that's why we continue people pleasing, because it's harder to try to change. But hopefully from today, I'm hoping that you're going to understand it a little bit better, and you'll be able to make some choices that will help you to break the habit of people pleasing. And so you can get more of what you want when you're not people pleasing. Also, here's what we're doing when we're people pleasing. It's really also a place to hide. What do I mean by place to hide? It's not exposing. When you are standing up for something, when you are being assertive, when you're being confident, when you're being boundaried, when you're speaking out against a wrong, it's not comfortable. It's not, you're going against the grain, you're going against everybody else, you're going against the flow. You are the one that is challenging, you're the one that is standing out, you're the one that is not doing what everybody else is doing. You're not falling in with the crowd sometimes. And that again is a place that is not comfortable. We don't want to be in the spotlight. We don't want to be exposed. We don't want to be seen sometimes. And the fear of being seen is because we have not done the work of dealing with the thing that is influencing shame, or dealing with the thing that is influencing fear. We don't want to deal with those. And so hiding in people pleasing is a more comfortable way to live, even though it's not a fulfilling way to live, but it keeps you out of trouble. It keeps you just living beneath the radar. And I was speaking to, I don't remember who I was speaking to this week, which friend, when I said, I don't know how I could live my life not allowing the growth and expansion that happens when we work through difficult places, when we work through difficult things. It just is, there shouldn't be any option. But we hide in people pleasing because the alternative is being seen. And because we're not comfortable with ourselves, we can't allow anybody else to see us, because there's so many things that maybe you're still working on, so many areas of your life that is still influencing shame. There's so many decisions that you've made, the mistakes of the past, the traumas that you've experienced that is still influencing shame. And so the alternative is exposure, you feel. And if you're exposed, everybody's going to see you, everybody's going to see your flaws, everybody's going to see the trauma and the shame and the fear that is covered with achievements and accomplishments and money perhaps, and the nice family and the car and the home and the things that covers it. And you feel, if you break out of people pleasing and you start to stand and speak and be kind as opposed to be nice, and say how you feel and ask for what you need, then people are going to get to know you. And because you're not comfortable, sometimes we're not comfortable with ourselves, and so we opt for people pleasing instead. I completely understand it. As somebody who's healing from trauma, I understand the need to people please. And sometimes we grow up learning it. We grow up learning how to be nice because it protected us, as I said before. And so it's a hiding place, right? When we are hiding in people pleasing. But I submit to you, and I want to suggest that if you start to work through the places, the things that you're hiding from, or some people are not aware of the things that they're hiding from, or will not let themselves become aware of the things that they're hiding from. But if you allow yourself to stop and ask the why do I do that? Why do I people please? Why am I so pleasing and pleasant? Not that being pleasant and pleasing is wrong, but when you're doing it at the expense of authenticity, when you're doing it at the expense of your own sense of self, and you know that you're sacrificing self-worth in order to do it, when you know that you're doing it at the expense of your opinion and your voice, then something is wrong. And so if you feel any discomfort when you say yes, when you should say no, there is a gap that needs to be looked at. When you feel uncomfortable, when you're doing the thing that you say yes to, but you're grumpy and you're upset, when you're annoyed, when you're frustrated, when you're tired, but you're dragging yourself to do the thing anyway that you commit to, then that's a suggestion that something is wrong. Something is beneath the surface, that you've said yes when you want to say no. Even when you're at home, even in your romantic relationships, even in your marriage, even with your children, when you say yes, when you want to say no, something is wrong. So I'll give an example. We have children and we all want to please them. We all want to do everything for our children, we want to go above and beyond. And my son had an interview yesterday and he called me. I think the interview is about 15 minutes from home, took the bus with his dad, and called me to come and pick them up because they were going to have to wait 40 minutes for the bus. And I could drive 15 minutes, go pick them up, 15 minutes home. Once upon a time, I would do that. He asked and I sat with it. And I said, no. He said, Mom, I said, no, I'm take the bus home, wait for the bus. Because I checked in with my body and I checked in with how I felt. And I knew that I could go. I would want to please them. I'd want to go above and beyond. That's what mothers do. We go above and beyond and we do more than, you know. But I checked with my body and I knew that I had quite a bit of admin work to do and quite a bit of things to do that was delayed and that has been delayed for a long time and I needed to get to. If I said yes, that all of that would be sacrificed. And so I said no. And, they took the bus home and they were fine. But I'm giving that an example of how sometimes we please at the expense of ourselves, at the expense of other things that we have to do, at the expense of our own comfort, at the expense of our own health. We do it at the expense of those things. Would it have hurt him to wait for the bus? No, it was 40 minutes. It was fine. He came home on time and was able to go play basketball later on. So nobody was hurt. Everybody was okay. But I didn't sacrifice something that was important to me in order to do that. And so that's how people pleasing work. That's how we do it sometimes. We do it with our children and we train them to expect it because we used to do it. And because I'm a recoverer, I can spot the sign. I'm a rescuer, recovering rescuer, I like to say. So, but sometimes it's a hiding place, right? If I didn't feel good about myself as a mother, if I didn't know that I've done an amazing job, I'm good enough, I'm not perfect, and I'm okay with good enough. I'm good enough parent that has done many above and beyond. And this time I don't need to hide. I don't need to feel shame. I don't need to feel any kind of discomfort in saying no. I can do it peacefully, hang up the phone, and carry on what I was doing. So if you're recognizing people pleasing as a hiding place, then this might be a time to look at what you're hiding from and start to process that, start to work through that. Also, we might feel a strong desire to please, a strong desire to do something that we don't want to do to please others. Now, that's rooted in a belief that the needs of others are more important than your needs. And again, that comes from somewhere. That comes from trauma. That comes from a family with dysfunction. That comes from not having your needs met and not knowing what that's like. That's come from seeing other people doing that and prioritizing other people over themselves, right? So that comes from there. So sometimes it's a strong desire. It's also rooted in the messaging that you got that you weren't important enough, that your thoughts weren't important, that your opinion weren't important, that the thing that you want is not important, and what somebody else wants is more important than yours. So it comes from those places too. And you are also, there's a belief that if I do this, they will feel that. So sometimes it's a controlling response. If I do this, if I do these things, then they will feel this way. And I hate to tell you this, but you can't make anybody feel anything. They feel it because of what's going on for them, because how it resonates with them and reflects with them. You can't make them feel good or bad. So the belief that if I go above and beyond, if I people please, if I max my strength out, if I do all of these things, then people are going to feel good, they're going to feel amazing, they're going to love me. If I do this, they will do that. Not necessarily so, because you can't make them feel. They might not even be grateful. They might not remember it, right? So if you're doing it for those reasons, then investigate that as well. Investigate those belief systems. People pleasing is also rooted in low self-esteem. It's which is also rooted in a belief that you're not good enough, that I'm not good enough. Low self-esteem is rooted in a belief system that I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough, then everybody else is better than me. And so my opinions is not as good as other people's opinions. My feelings are not as valid as other people's feelings. My thoughts are not as valid. What I need is not as valid. So I must give people what they need. You hear the must, the distortion there. I must do this and I must do that. And if I do this, then they will do that. And it's not so, right? Because we can't control anybody with our actions. People will make decisions and choices because they're adults. So the type of people pleaser. So one is conflict avoidant people will be people pleasing because we feel, again, if I do this, they will do that. We're trying to avoid conflict at all costs. So we're going to do the thing that we don't want to do. We're going to sacrifice our own views on the subject because we feel like if we express our views on the subject, then it's going to cause conflict. It's going to make, hear the word again, It's going to make people angry. And if they're angry, then it's going to be my fault and we're going to have an argument. You can't make people angry. People choose anger as a response. It might be their trauma response. It's not because you express your opinion. Really want you to hear that. And if you're the person on the other end when somebody says something that you get angry, I want you to also investigate and think about, why do I get angry when people say that? Because nobody is responsible for us to make us comfortable, right? We understand the things that sends us in anger or sends us in people pleasing or annoyance, and we understand it, and we work at it, right? And we work on healing so that there's nothing that they say or do that resonates with anything in us, so that we can be okay. So that's the conflict avoidant person. So if you're conflict avoidant, there's a reason why you're conflict avoidant, right? And your avoidance of conflict doesn't mean the relationship is healthy. So you need to look at that. If I'm avoiding conflict with my husband or with my wife or with my children, or if I don't say my opinion at work because I believe that my boss is going to do this, if I don't tell my friend because I think we're going to have an argument, and I'm afraid of arguments, I'm afraid of conflict because there's a belief system around that again. If we argue, that means what? The relationship is going to be ended. The relationship is going to be over. They're going to think I'm a bad person. I don't want to be seen as a bad person. I saw conflict in my childhood and this is what it looked like. And I want to avoid that at all costs. Therefore, I'm going to do everything that is going to be make people happy so that we never have conflict. The absence of conflict doesn't mean happy. Happy home, happy family, happy friendship, happy workplace, a good workplace. It doesn't mean any of those things, right? It just means that there is something that you need to work on around why you're conflict avoidant. And number two is culture. Sometimes we're socialized to be people pleasers because in some cultures where children are to be seen and not heard, where children are not priority or spoken to as people, where children are not given any respect, where children are is lowest on the rung of the ladder, then you that culture teaches you to be a people pleaser. Because if you're lowest, even among the lowest, there's scrambling and fighting for who is the highest among the lowest, right? So we learn that in that kind of system. And so if you're from that kind of culture, whether it's culture in terms of the wider society or culture in terms of cultural norms within your religious community or within your family, then you want to spend some time again and understand what that is, because those are some of the underlining the root of people pleasing, which is not serving you well. I know that's why you're watching this video, and it's hampering your progress at work, your progress in your home, your progress in your romantic relationships. It's taking away from your peace and not the person that you want to be. And then there's religion. Religion is also, and notice I don't say God, I say religion, because we learn so many things in religion that is not of God. It's not biblical, but it's some set of rules that people make up. And those rules that are made up by people influence us to live in unhealthy patterns and unhealthy cycles. It makes us have unhealthy coping strategies that are not good, that are not useful, that are not serving us, that even hides the glory of God from being revealed in our lives. Because if I'm a people pleaser, then I am also sacrificing some of the fruits of the spirit. I'm sacrificing because the gospel is not about that. The gospel is freedom in Christ. Truth sets us free. And if I'm free, then I don't need to be a people pleaser. I can be kind, I can be warm and compassionate and loving, but I don't need to do anything to make you comfortable, because the truth isn't comfortable oftentimes. The truth stirs us to want to investigate and to want to know what is that and how do I act, and what is it that it's connecting with, what is it that is resonating with, that is causing the stirring within me. If we're people pleasing, it stops us from reflecting the glory of God, because we are sacrificing something that is pivotal and valuable, and truth sets us free. So I'm inviting you to, if you recognize yourself as a people pleaser, that might be a lot to sit with. Take your time with the video. I always encourage people to sit with it, journal, understand your thoughts, understand your feelings, go for a walk, and allow this to sit in it so that you can hear what comes up next for you. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.